السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وأصلي وأسلم على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. أما بعد. إخواني, we want to conclude inshallah, hopefully in the next few days, regarding the scholars of Andalus. Ikhwani, a question that can be asked: is it possible for you to be a doctor and a scholar of Islam at the same time? Is it possible for you to be an engineer and a scholar of Islam at the same time? Or whatever speciality you took in university, can you combine it with the Sharia, with the knowledge of the Deen? This is a question that all of us need to ask ourselves. Is it sufficient for you just to be in your profession, or you have to combine it also with the ilm of the Deen? Ikhwani fillah, Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah, Imam Muhammad ibn Idris al-Shafi'i rahimahullah says that the most important knowledge is the knowledge of halal and haram. And the second most important knowledge is the knowledge of medicine. He says, I see the Muslims have neglected this knowledge of medicine and left it to the Christians and the Jews, yet is a third of the knowledge that we are supposed to seek. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He says to you in the Quran, oh dear Muslim, He says, وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا. Do not forget your share of this world. Many people think the share of this world is property, it's wealth. Also, or more importantly, your share of this world, ikhwani fillah, is the knowledge, the beneficial knowledge that will benefit the ummah, the Muslims that are present today. From medicine, from engineering, from astronomy, any knowledge. When you're making dua, one of the best du'as that you make, you say, Allahumma aslih li dini alladhi huwa ismatu amri, waslih li dunyaya allati fiha ma'ashi. Oh Allah, rectify my deen, my religion, that is a protection for myself. And rectify for me my dunya, where I am residing. رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. Oh Allah, grant me the good of this world, the good of the hereafter, and protect me from the hellfire. So, ikhwani fillah, if you look at our Islamic history, you will not find, except very rare circumstances, where a scholar is only a scholar in religion. You'll find a scholar in religion, but is a scholar also in medicine, in mathematics, in physics, in chemistry, in astronomy, in biology, in optics. So much so, ikhwani fillah, that we Muslims were the superpowers and the leaders of civilization for over 1,000 years, a millennia. Alhamdulillah, in our century right now, you find many scholars. A scholar is a scholar in the deen and is also an engineer. A scholar in medicine, for example, one of the historians I read from, Dr. Raghib Sirjani, he's a historian, but he's also a surgeon. And you have a pilot also in history, Muhammad Musa Sharif, he's a pilot and is also a scholar of history. You have one of the sheikhs in Masjid Nabawi, he's a doctor, family doctor, but he's one of the most foremost scholars when it comes to the recitation of the Quran. It's called Sheikh Abdullah Jar Allah. Most of the students of knowledge or the Qurra, the people who recite the Quran very well, when they go to Medina, they want to seek out this sheikh to read to him the Quran. Yet he's a medical doctor. So, let us look also at these scholars, some of them, that came from the land of Andalus, more specifically Portugal and Spain. Our lecture tonight, is a man who is known as the father of surgery. We have medical students here, we have doctors here. But do they know that from amongst the most important people when it came to the knowledge of surgery is a Muslim? A man called Abu Qasim Alzahrawi. Abu Qasim Alzahrawi rahimahullah, Khalaf ibn Abbas Alzahrawi al-Ansari rahimahullah. He was born in the year of 325 of the Hijri calendar, near the city of Qurtuba, in the city of Zahra, that's 11 kilometers away from Qurtuba. And he passed away just after the year 400, ikhwani fillah. This man, when he came and he started seeking knowledge of medicine, he noticed that there was a bad culture amongst all of human beings, not only Muslims, every human being in the world at that time, they do not want to do something called surgery. Surgery, you leave it to the barber, and you leave it to the person who does cupping, hijama. We do not want to be associated with something that has najis, blood, and pus, and bile and all these things that come from the body, we do not want to associate it as doctors. Said no. Surgery is the most important field in medicine. And Ikhwanifillah, he started researching on surgery and he started writing books. He wrote one of his famous books, is known as At-Tasrifu Liman Ajiza An At-Tasnif. At-Tasrifu Liman Ajiza An At-Tasnif. This book, Ikhwanifillah, is 30 volumes of medicine. It was the foremost book for medicine, for surgery, for 500 years in the entire world, more so in the universities of Europe, in Montpellier and other universities. 500 years, his book on surgery. He says in this book, Ikhwanifillah, that you are not allowed to be a doctor of surgery until you learn the following things. The first chapter, medicine. The second chapter, orthopedics. Then pharmacology, pathology, how to give childbirth. He wrote all these things. And the last chapter, surgery. Says you have to study all this knowledge before you become a surgeon. Then Ikhwanifillah, he continued and he brought most of the instruments that we use right now in the surgery were invented by this man, Abu Qasim Alzahrawi. Abu Qasim Alzahrawi, Khalaf ibn Abbas rahimahullah, born in the year 325 of the Hijri calendar. He was working in the house of the Khalifa. He was the official doctor or the surgeon in charge of the house of the Khalifa Al-Hakam ibn Abdurrahman al-Nasir. As we mentioned in the previous series, the greatest leader to ever come out of Spain, be it Muslim or Christian Spain, is this man, Abdurrahman al-Nasir. So he was a doctor in this castle of the son of the Khalifa, Abdurrahman al-Nasir, also the Khalifa, rahimahullah. Ikhwanifillah, this man, he taught most of the world many things related to medicine and surgery. Very important man. The Europeans, they always mutilate the names of the Muslims. For example, we mentioned previously Ibn Rushd, Al-Hafid, the philosopher, they call him Averroes. Then you have this man, they call him Abul Qasis. But that's what his name is. His name is Abul Qasim. So, Ikhwanifillah, from amongst the knowledge to know is that Muslims, they gave a lot to the civilization of this world. Amongst them is this man who's known as the father of surgery. One day he finds a slave lady, he's called. There's a slave lady who's cut her throat. She's committing suicide, she's cut her throat. This was a death penalty. If you cut your throat, you're dead. But he came and he proved to the people that he could treat her, and he did the surgery and she lived and she survived. This is one of the first examples of someone trying something called tracheotomy in medicine. And later came on other scholars. This is our first scholar, Ikhwanifillah. Most of us Muslims, we know a man called Ibn Sina. You've heard of Ibn Sina? Ibn Sina, the Westerners call him Avicenna. This man, his name is Abu Ali al-Hussein ibn Abdullah ibn Ali ibn Hassan ibn Sina al-Bukhari al-Balkhi. This man is one of the great scholars of medicine. He also has a book known as Al-Qanun. He is from the land of Iran. Unfortunately, Ikhwanifillah, most Muslims or most Muslim countries you go, you find Ibn Sina pharmacy, Ibn Sina hospital. However, this man, Ikhwanifillah, is not, he has been declared by most of the scholars of Islam to be a heretic, to be a deviant, to have left the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal. Wa'udhu billah. They declare him to be amongst the Qaramita, the Batiniya sect. There's a sect that attacked the Kaaba and they went with the Hajar al-Aswad for 17 years. There was no Hajar al-Aswad in Mecca. Ibn Sina comes from that Ismailiya, Batiniya, Qaramita group. So he's been declared a deviant on that. That's why Imam Abul Ghazali, he wrote that book, Tahafut al-Falasifa, where he rebuted and refuted the philosophers, thinking that the thought of Ibn Sina is actually the entire philosophy. Then Ibn Rushd, as we mentioned previously, he rebuted Imam al-Ghazali, rahimahullah. So do not follow the teachings of Ibn Sina and don't give that person the glory he deserves. You have someone else we have learned tonight, Abul Qasim Alzahrawi, rahimahullah. If you're a student in medicine or you're doing a thesis, go research. From the things they discovered, Ikhwanifillah, many things that are attributed to the Westerners were actually discovered by the Muslims way before that. For example, one of the most stupid discoveries that is mentioned to be a Western discovery that not even the Westerners accept is they say the America was discovered by Christopher Columbus in 1493. This is something very stupid and laughable that no one accepts. The Vikings, before that, they discovered America. The Muslim general from China, he discovered America way before this. But they want to give credence to to Christopher Columbus. You find them talking about Galileo Galilei, talking about the earth rotating or orbiting. This was mentioned by Shaykh al-Islam Ahmed ibn Taymiyyah and many other scholars way before him. So the West has a habit of stealing our ideas and attributing it to themselves. Know your legacy, know your civilization. You had greats like Abu al-Qasim Alzahrawi rahimahullah. You have another one also, also from the land of Andalus. He's known as Abu Marwan Abdul Malik ibn Zuhr rahimahullah. Abu Marwan Abdul Malik ibn Zuhr rahimahullah. He was born in the year 464 of the Hijri calendar and he passed away in the year 557 of the Hijri calendar. He came from a family of scholars of medicine. His father Abu al-Ala ibn Zuhr was also a scholar of medicine. And this man, he wrote At-Taysir, one of his great books, At-Taysir. The scholars of the West, they call him one of the greatest doctors or scholars of medicine since the time of the Greek Galen. No other scholars come like this man, Abdul Malik ibn Zuhr. So, the land of Andalus, when we talk about it and we mention it, it's not talking about milk that is spilt. This is our history. This is a civilization. This is a legacy that we lost. You have another man, is called Ibn Nafis, rahimahullah. But this is from the east, from the lands of Iraq and Iran and so on. He's the first one. He's called the father of physiology, human physiology. So, Muslims have given a lot to society. It is not sufficient for you, just to be content with the degree that you have in finance or engineering or in medicine. No. All the scholars, or most of the scholars, you find that they used to have also knowledge of the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal. I saw a few days an advertisement for the Imam of the mosque in Ankara that was written 400 years ago. He says that for you to be an Imam, you have to be Hafidh al-Quran. Hafidh al-Quran, I don't know if our Imam is there, he's Hafidh al-Quran, Mumtaz. You have to know at least 3 of the languages of Islam. What are the languages of Islam at the time of the Bani Uthman? He says you have to know Arabic language fluently, Turkish language fluently, and Persian language fluently. You have to know the fiqh, the seerah, the ilm al-sharia, you have to know it. You have to have gotten certificates for every knowledge. On top of that, you must know the Bible and the knowledge of comparative religion. And finally, you must have knowledge of mathematics and physics to an advanced level. So for you to be an Imam in the mosque in Turkey those days, you have to be also knowledgeable in physics and engineering. So do not look down in these worldly sciences. Use them as a means to help your akhirah. If you look at the very first hadith that we study when you come to the book of Arba'in al-Nawawiyah, the very first hadith in this book, also the very first hadith in the Sahih Bukhari, is the hadith of Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu anhu, where the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam says, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّةِ or إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّةِ. Every single deed is based on the intention that you give. Every single deed. If you look at the commentary, what the scholars they say from the intelligence of the scholars is that every act they do becomes an ibadah. Even the acts that look mundane or normal, it is an ibadah. Something like eating or drinking or studying knowledge like medicine and engineering, all that is for one purpose. They remember the niyyah. It is to help me in my ibadah. It is to help me establish the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal on this world. Ikhwani fillah, without these modern sciences, without learning this artificial intelligence, for example, that's becoming popular right now, we as Muslims, we are not going to get back the strength that we are promised. We have to learn the deen, and we have to learn also these other sciences that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made halal. The only thing that you should not learn is some knowledge that is haram. For example, the knowledge that is haram is the knowledge of sihr, witchcraft. That is haram for you to learn. But other knowledges, that the scholars have not refuted, learn. Benefit yourself and benefit the ummah. Because something that is beneficial for you is great. But something that is more beneficial to the ummah has more ajr and more thawab. With this, we have looked at the part of the scholars of Andalus that came with the knowledge of medicine. Inshallah, we shall look thereafter at scholars who came with the knowledge of engineering, with the knowledge of geography and such in the forthcoming lectures. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.